Ooh, what's up, Internet? My name's Nerdy, and this is my review of Captain America Brave New World. I was gonna set up and do really nice. I'm still in my friend's apartment, but I was like, you know what? I saw the movie. It's not great. And I was like, I'm just gonna bang this one out. Which I can't say they did for Captain America Brave New World because it feels like they did a lot of reshoots. It feels like they reshot this one a bunch, cut it to crap, and then put it out. And I don't know who's to blame for that. I don't know. I think that Captain America Brave New World comes in a weird place politically where it is a lot about like the president maybe not being everybody's favorite guy. And I do wonder how much they were like, oh, maybe this is a weird time to make this movie. I don't know. Let's start with the good stuff because there is good stuff. It's not all bad. The action scenes, pretty fun. Red Hulk, not in the movie a bunch. When he is, pretty solid. CGI has a couple of iffy moments, but mostly looks really good. I think the face match for Harrison Ford in the CGI is really strong. Really looks like Thaddeus Ross became Red Hulk. But I'm not surprised. I always felt like the Mark Ruffalo face for the Hulk in the last few Hulk things has looked really good. And so, yeah, they did what they usually do there. The jet scene, there's parts of it in the trailer, so I think that I can say that when Joaquin Torres, the new Falcon, not that new, he was in the TV show, but he's the Falcon now, and Captain America, Sam Wilson go up against some fighter jets. Favorite scene in the movie from an action choreography standpoint. Really, really dug it. I thought that was creative. It showed off a way in which this Captain America is different from Steve Rogers' Captain America, which is something that I think they've needed to do. We'll get into the things they did about that didn't work for me in negatives, but that scene, really good. I thought in general, the cast was pretty solid. Anthony Mackie obviously is incredibly talented, much better than what they asked him to do in this movie, which was take a back seat to Harrison Ford and not lead the film, but we'll get into that in a second. But what they asked him to do, he was really great. I thought that Danny Ramirez, I think is his name. I have the cast list here. Yeah, Danny Ramirez as Joaquin Torres, very funny, very charming, suited the part really well. I thought the best performance in the movie was actually by Carl Lumley as Isaiah Bradley. He isn't in like the whole film, but when he is on screen, especially in some of the super close-ups, he is just acting and he's given it. It helps that his emotional journey kind of makes the most sense in the movie, and they really are consistent with how he is feeling. And so I think that he was given the easiest job, not the easiest in like the material that he has to play, but the easiest in that his character makes sense and is doing things that his character would do from scene to scene. He is just also a very talented emotional performer who brings a lot out of the character. There's a bunch of other people in this movie. Giancarlo Esposito is there as Sidewinder. When he's on screen, it's great. He's not that important to the film, and he's not there that often, but he does a good job. There's some spoilers. There's the big bad of the movie who was not good, unfortunately. I love the actor. Didn't make any sense. It was the curse of people saying that they're writing a really, really smart guy and then him being an idiot apparently the whole time. But like the movie's trying to tell you that he's so smart, but he's dumb. And you're like, I guess. And then he's magic at the end. We'll get to the end. The end sucks. Not the actual end isn't that bad. There's a moment right before the final act that I'm gonna put like a spoiler thing right at the end about. It's the reshoots. It's the problem with reshoots is that scenes just don't make sense together. Harrison Ford, though. Let's talk about Harrison Ford. He's great. He's the lead of the movie. And I'm not saying that to like dismiss Sam Wilson or to like be like, I don't like black people against Anthony Mackie as Captain America. I think Anthony Mackie is going to be a great Captain America. I'm excited to see how he leads the Avengers. But this movie does not ever ask Anthony Mackie's decision making to change the plot. Or not Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson. Sam Wilson is along for the ride in this movie, and he just is kind of doing the generally right thing most of the time. Harrison Ford's character as Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross is the one who is tasked with making difficult decisions, having an emotional connection to what is going on, failing at things, and having his failures change the trajectory of the movie. Sam Wilson doesn't do any of that, right? Sam Wilson is just being kind of the Captain America I'm going to go into a situation that's already bad and I'm going to try and fix it as much as I can while I figure out the way that it is emotionally connected to other people in this story, but not me, right? And it is interesting that in Sam Wilson's first movie as the lead character, it is in a lot of ways, because of Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross kind of predating Sam in the MCU, about the Incredible Hulk. And so the character who has the biggest kind of heart piece, right, who has the most invested in this story is Thaddeus. It is his, I don't want to say denouement, that's the wrong word here, but it is his character's emotional journey. And Sam Wilson is just kind of present for it. And he's doing things. It's not that Sam Wilson doesn't do things, they're just sort of not emotionally important to him. He is saving the day because he's Sam Wilson and he saves the day. And it's America and he's got to be there to do it, right? But it's never deeper than that for him. And it is immediately deeper than that for Thaddeus. And so the movie, weirdly, is more interesting when Harrison Ford is on screen than when Anthony Mackie is. Not because Anthony Mackie's not talented or because he's doing a bad job, but just because Harrison Ford's Thaddeus Ross is the one who is being challenged by the film and who is having difficulty thrown his way. But he's also the character that can't do anything about it because he's not Captain America. And so there's a really disjointed narrative flow where you're bouncing between Captain America trying to solve a mystery that the audience and the characters are already aware of the answer to. There's no point in the movie where the characters don't know what's going on. They're aware the whole time, and we're aware the whole time. There's the mystery is solved immediately, and then you watch the characters kind of go through the mystery that they already know the answer to for proof, I guess. I don't really know. And then it cuts back to Harrison Ford emotionally dealing with what does it mean to have been a wartime general who did some shit that you're not proud of and now be the president and want to be a better man for the people and for your daughter. Don't worry, you'll hear about Betty Ross the entire film. I'm not. They bring her up so much that I'm like, dude, I get it. I get it. Betty Ross isn't talking to you. And so the movie is just a little all over the place. It does some really fun things with the action, and Sam Wilson is great in the suit. It doesn't really make sense. It's really hard to buy that he can do what he's doing. And the movie's like, well, his suit's vibranium. And I'm like, yeah, but like Whiplash still exists. Like the body in the vibranium is still squishy. I honestly just wish that Marvel hadn't committed to this idea that Sam Wilson isn't going to get the serum and they just given it to him. The movie would be better. The paying lip service to the like him constantly being like, I wish I'd taken that serum isn't enough for me to buy into his body doing the things that it does. And it gets into, I think, a problem with this Captain America now is that he is a tech Captain America, right? His drones do so much of the work. His suit does so much of the work. He is just a guy who has all of this tech, but he also doesn't make the tech. It's not like... And like Batman doesn't make all of his tech, right? But Batman has Lucius Fox, and he has a relationship with Lucius Fox. And so where his tech is coming from is an emotional relationship. And, you know, Christopher Nolan really dove into that relationship and pushed it to the brink, I think, in the Dark Knight trilogy to great effect. It was really exciting at the end of the Dark Knight when they're having conversations where there's a lot of tension in their relationship because Lucius has an idea of what his tech should be used for, and Batman is using it for what he thinks it should be used for. They both have ideas about what is right, and those things are at odds. Sam Wilson has an ungodly amount of technology that does anything, right? His drones are just they just act on their own. They're basically characters, but there's no emotional connection to them. If they break, Sam Wilson doesn't need to be sad. He'll just get new ones. But the problem is from who, right? This movie kind of posits the idea that Joaquin Torres is the tech guy because he can hack things like the White House. It's not really a spoiler. It's not a big deal because nothing in this movie has any consequences. Everyone does bad things the whole movie, and there aren't actually any consequences ever. But Joaquin Torres is apparently like the tech guy, but there's no way he's making Wakandan tech. And so the Wakandans have just given Sam Wilson, Captain America, unlimited technology to do anything that he needs because he's not a superhero. And but he doesn't have an emotional relationship to that. There's no character on the other side of that who has an idea about how the tech should be used, or who has an idea about Sam Wilson stepping out of line, because Sam Wilson doesn't step out of line. And the movie doesn't ask him to. The movie doesn't challenge him in any way. He is always presented with a situation where there is a right answer, where there is a thing he should be doing, and he does that thing. And so he's just sort of a tech superhero now, but the tech just comes from the ether. The tech has no weight to it because it just exists. It just exists to solve problems in the narrative. And that's fine. I think that all tech is going to do that in movies. You can't actually have super tech in cinema without it being a little bit magical. But if you're going to do it, in my opinion, you have to weight it in something. There has to be an emotional relationship with a character or with the technology, or there has to be a limit on how much it can be used. There has to be like some kind of way in which that tech can have some stake in what is happening. And this movie blows past that, and it is just whatever it needs to be. And unfortunately, because of that, that's all Sam Wilson is. He just kind of becomes whatever tech he needs to be in that moment, rather than kind of being a character whose skill set is solving problems. And I do wonder how they move forward with him as Captain America because of it. It's not, and I guess I should say Iron Man, right? I should bring up Iron Man because he's essentially Iron Man now, right? He flies, he shoots things, he has lasers, he can cut through cars with his and jets with his wings. That's in the trailer. That's not me spoiling something. Most of the Red Hulk fight is in the trailer. Sorry. It's good. It's a great scene. It's just you've seen a lot of it. But Sam Wilson doesn't make any of that. So him using it just is like, you've just given this character stuff that solves his problems, that he doesn't, that isn't him being good at things, that isn't related to him at all. He just gets to have the best tech because Steve gave him the shield. Because he's a good guy. And he is a good guy. He's such a good guy that it's kind of boring at times. And it's a great performance by Anthony Mackie. This is not a criticism of him. It is a criticism of the fact that this movie, and honestly, I think the MCU in general is not willing to let Sam be dirty in any way. There's no dirt on him. There's no mud on the tires. He is a Subaru Outback from a television commercial, driving city streets, fresh out of the car wash. And much like a car commercial, he's not allowed to get any deeper or more complicated than being real shiny. And I just know that Anthony Mackie can do that stuff. I know he can play a more conflicted version of this character. And I want that because he's so talented. And I want Marvel to just be willing to allow him to have something going on. He has no life. This Sam Wilson has no internal life. He's got no story to tell outside of being Captain America anymore. And the TV show tried to do a little bit with his sister, and like, you know, they try and pay a little bit of lip service to the difficulty of being a Black American in a way that I think is, I understand why they want to do it. And I think that some of those scenes are really great, right? Like the bank scene from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I thought was really powerful and really well done. But those scenes get harder to keep telling when he's been Captain America for years. Right? This movie sets up that it's been 3 years that he's been Captain America, and everybody loves him. Like within the world of the movie, obviously in our real world, there's a bunch of idiots online saying some dumb shit. But in the world of the movie, he's adored for it, right? There's photographers and paparazzi who are screaming his name, cheering him on, being so excited. Near the beginning of the movie, this isn't really a spoiler. It's an offhand line that's literally said off camera, but there's literally a line where they're like, the President of the United States and Captain America, can these two leaders of this country work together? Like the movie posits a world where him being Black is not a problem, and that he is not being questioned for the color of his skin anymore. But then he'll have scenes where he talks about it, but that struggle doesn't affect him in any way. those scenes where he's talking about that struggle, and there aren't many in this movie, to be honest, but there is one where he kind of brings that up, and the movie never allowed for him to have any real struggles. And so it just kind of comes out of nowhere near the end of the film, because you're like, well, that's not really been what this movie's about. It actually seems like your world has generally accepted you and has built you up as something and is loving you for it, right? You are being put on a pedestal akin to the president. And that's not to say that I don't think that they should explore his race in these films and what it means to be a black Captain America. I actually think they should. I think that they should make the movie more complicated and allow the movie to explore that, right? Get into it. Get dirty. Get real. Stop being so shiny. Allow him to be more than just the perfect guy. Because I actually really liked when Marvel pushed Steve Rogers away from that and had him get grimier, right? Bearded Steve Rogers was really interesting. I don't want to say more interesting than before, because he struggled before that, right? His relationship with Nick Fury was complicated, and I liked the way the MCU played that. The problem with this movie is that this movie tries to posit a world where Sam Wilson and Thaddeus Ross have that relationship already, where they have this history that you've seen on screen. And they kind of do, because, the oh my God, William Hurt, who passed away, right? He was the one who enacted the Sokovia Accords, and there are ways in which he did interact with the Avengers. But this movie, by recasting him and pushing Sam Wilson into the main spotlight, I almost felt like Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross should have been a bigger part of Falcon and the Winter Soldier to lead to the relationship being what this movie wanted to be in this film, right? That's mostly what I wanted to say. I think that's this. The villains are bad. There's an actress who plays a Secret Service lady. Her name, I don't know her. I know she was on. I know she was on the mini project. Zosha Roquemore. She is probably lovely, and I want to be very clear that I'm not criticizing her when I say this, because I don't think that she is good in the movie, and I don't blame her at all, because she was asked to do something that is insanely stupid to me, which is play a Secret Service agent who is like constantly babysitting the president. She has bad lines, and it's not that she's a bad actress. Genuinely, it is just that what they asked her to do is not good. There's a moment in the movie. This is a bit spoilery. Let's go to some quick spoiler stuff, and then I want to get out of here. There's a moment in the movie. Spoilers. This is a light spoiler. This one, first one, very light spoiler. All these will be light spoilers. I'm not going to spoil big stuff. Well, no, I will. I will later. Let's do light spoilers and big spoilers. Light spoiler. There's a moment in the movie where the president is like, "Hey, we need to get out of here in an hour. We're going to go and join the Navy and maybe get into a bit of a conflict that might lead to a war." And she's like, "Mr. President, this is really dangerous. War is bad." And she doesn't exactly say that, but like the idea of a Secret Service member telling the President of the United States to like be careful because war is dangerous was so absurd. I cackled. I was like, what are we? And it's not the actress's fault at all. I genuinely feel like she got a bunch of rewrite scenes where they were like, we just need to like smooth this over. Can you say this line to like exposit what happens next? Or explain something for the audience, or she got a real short end of the stick, and it's a shame because at the beginning of the movie, I thought she was going to have a relationship with Sam Wilson of some kind. It seemed like the movie was insinuating that they had some kind of past together, that they knew each other, and that they'd worked together before. But then she's sort of replaced with the Israeli Black Widow character who clearly had a bigger part in the movie that has been trimmed, because there is a scene when they're on the ship where she has a super suit on, and I didn't say this in non-spoilers because I didn't want to spoil it, but she's wearing this like really cool leather jacket. The leather jacket is nice, but she clearly has like some kind of a super suit on underneath. It's like got like blue lines. It kind of almost looks like a blue, like maybe there's like a Captain Marvel-esque kind of shape to it. You can't really see it because she doesn't take the jacket off. And I'm like, clearly that suit was worn at some point in this movie. Clearly there are scenes where she was in that. And I don't know what happened. But yeah, so yeah, the Secret Service lady, man, it was rough. Every time she talks to the president, she's like being like patronizing or condescending to him or like joking with him in ways that none of it worked. And I don't blame her. I promise I don't. I felt bad for her. I felt like they asked her to show up and like carry the stupid ball. Not even a stupid ball, right? Because her character isn't dumb. But her character is being inappropriate for what her position is. She's a Secret Service agent, right? It almost felt like they were trying to give her like a Happy Hogan relationship with Tony Stark. But Happy was a bodyguard to a CEO and had known him for his whole life, right? Like they have this long-standing relationship. And in this case, she's a Secret Service. He's the president of the United States. It was very odd and seemed out of place, and it made her not seem like a very like strong person. She didn't seem like she was cut from the cloth of a Secret Service agent, and I found it very distracting. The other thing is the plot has some really dumb moments. I think I talked about this lightly, but the leader is the bad guy. We're in full spoilers now. Full spoilers. The leader kills a guy so that the guy doesn't call Sam Wilson to tell him that there is gamma in the drugs that the president is taking. And then the leader goes to Sam Wilson and tells Sam Wilson that that there's gamma in the drugs that he's had the president taking. And those scenes are like back to back. He turns himself in so that the press find out about. It's dumb. It's impossibly dumb. It doesn't make sense how he gets there. He kills the guy in broad daylight next to a U.S. Navy training base and nobody notices. And then he goes like it's just it is the setup for the final act. And it is so stupid that what happens next, which is actually really fun, right? Which is actually a good time, is a little bit tainted because you're like, wait, the setup for this was it took me completely out of the movie, and it made the final act worse because I was like, well, God, I wish you'd just set this up differently. And like honestly, I think that I would be much more complimentary of this film if that is not how the third act started. Genuinely, I really really feel like they fumbled the ball so hard going into the final moments that the fun of the Red Hulk fight, I had to wind up back. I had to like get back into the movie for, right? I had to become reinterested in the Red Hulk fight. But the Red Hulk fight wasn't long enough. And so by the time the movie had me back in, I was re-immersed, it was over. And Sam Wilson told Red Hulk, hey, you have a daughter, man. Let's not fight. And Red Hulk was like, oh yeah, I do have a daughter. I'm going to stop fighting because you're Captain America, but you can't actually fight me. And so the only way for this movie to end was for you to remind me that I have a daughter. Who shows up? Was she actually on set? Who knows? I was very surprised that they got her for this movie. Post-credit scene was bad. It was basically like, there is a multiverse. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I've seen Loki season 2, man. Like, I know there's Deadpool and Wolverine just made that $1 billion. Like, we know there's a multiverse. I was a very lackluster scene. Tim Blake Nelson is great, and I love him. I do love him. This version of the leader was dumb. And he kept being like, you surprised me. I thought you were going to do this. You surprised me. I'm like, well, then what's the point of your probability thing if you're just going to be incorrect the whole time? Like, and not succeed at all. Because Sam Wilson is just a guy with tech that beats your brains. And there's okay. So Sam Wilson's clearly got AI in his suit because his shit runs itself. So the movie is really just that Sam Wilson's AI beat the leader's brain, and that's what the film is. and that's fine. There's some great performances. I don't recommend going to go see it in a theater. I paid $21 to see it in IMAX. I think that if you're going to do it, I would pay the extra money and see it in IMAX because, like, the jet fight scene on a big screen is actually great. Like, it's fantastic to watch. It's cool. I liked the dogfighting scene a lot. The rest of the movie I wouldn't recommend. It's also consequenceless. Like, Harrison Ford becomes president in this movie and isn't president at the end of this movie. There's no real reason moving forward with the MCU to watch this film. It doesn't connect to anything. Bucky Barnes shows up for one scene to basically tell Sam that it's great that he doesn't have the serum. It's fine. And then he leaves before the fight where his superpowers would be really helpful. This is a movie where nothing really happened. Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross is in the raft until we need to drag him out to go fight something, and that's it. It's super mid. I would give it a 2 out of 5 stars, maybe a 2.3 for some cool action. When people complain about the MCU falling off, this is what they're talking about. Like, this kind of storytelling is exactly what they're talking about. What if we did Winter Soldier but worse? And that's my review of Brave New World. If you like the video, like, subscribe to the channel. If you don't, hit the dislike button. Leave mean comments down below because the algorithm god is hungry. We must feed her. This episode, that algorithm goddess is Zosha Rockmore. I really want to see her get a role where the movie treats her with respect. That's mean. I'm sure they were very nice to her on set. I just mean that, like, I would like to see her get a role where what she's being asked to do isn't annoying to me watching the movie. Because I don't think that there's a performer alive who could have made what they asked her to do work. And that's why I don't blame her at all. It's just, the movie did her dirty. If you want to follow me around the internet, you can. I'm at nerdynightly. As always, do something nerdy tonight.